The questions I chose for my learning experience were secondary sources, research process, and feedback. Starting off with secondary sources, before what I learned is I would go to Google and search up what I needed and use the first link that came up and used it as my source. Pretty lame. But how I learned and how it works was to look for valid papers reviewed by other people and authors who were credible with it. Also, about the sources, I would have to find an author that had a credibility and a background on it to show that he does know what he's writing about and what he's doing. How I applied these things, I would go to good websites that would allow me to find these sources. For example, UTRGV Library, Google Scholar, and etc. Some other things I found that could help me with my secondary sources was to look for the ending if it was a .com, .org, or .edu. .com being the worst one and the less credible one. .org and .edu being the better ones. Some problems I faced was to find if the author was credible, because on the site it wouldn't really tell you much. So how I overcame it was to look for the author and look at his background to see if he had knowledge on what he was doing. The way this impacted me was it gave evidence to my writing. These sources gave evidence to my writing from where they come from. So for example, some of the evidence it gave my writing was it showed how a person's writing would worsen throughout time. Moving on to my research process. On my research, I didn't know basically much. Probably the same about my secondary. So how it worked, I had to find the research on my own, do my own studies. So what I did was a documentary analysis, which would be this. I collected 3 documents. What kind of documents? There was a documentary and a schizophrenic writings. I would break it down and analyze the documents I collected. The ways I applied my documentary analysis was to ask some questions. So these questions were: how bad can the handwrite again? How long can they start writing? And how long did it take to finish writing? And did it take breaks during writings? My answer was, how do schizophrenics write? Some of the challenges I faced is during my documentary analysis, I had a documentary in which I had to cancel out what the documentary was trying to convey and just listening to the interview itself. Ways I overcame it was to just ignore or skip through the parts where I knew the documentary was going to be conveying its opinion, and just go straight to the interview. The ways this impacted this research process help impact my writings was that it strengthened my sources on showing what was true and what was not. So, for example, it strengthened the part on how it showed that the writing, how bad writing was, and how they would what's how can you say it? They would repeat the same words multiple times in their writings. Right, going into my feedback. About feedback, what I would do was just ask for help, and that would basically be much. I wouldn't ask anything else, just ask for help. No, me knowing, supposedly, I thought they would know my the solution for what I needed help. So what I learned was to give it specific answers in the parts I needed help. So for example, here and here, I would just ask, what should I do with this paragraph before? But here I specified, is it necessary? How can I make it work with my essay? And or if I should just remove it. Another one is another example is this. On my conclusion, I would just ask, I need help before on my conclusion. That would be it. But here I specified how I needed help on starting my conclusion. On what should I include in my conclusion, and some examples that could help me improve on my conclusion. So that's how I applied it. Some of the problems I overcame was that I'm really insecure about my work, so I really don't like showing people or asking for help. So without knowing there would be doing feedback on this essay, I would have really never asked helped on it. So with this feedback, I learned that I could help improve my work and not necessarily feel embarrassed about my work, and just let people help. Some ways I could use what I learned in the future would be, for example, my secondary sources I could use to find some reliable sources for other classes. For example, history, we might be doing writings from what I've heard, so I could find secondary sources to help strengthen my writings. Another thing, I'm going into computer science, so knowing good reliable areas where I could find help on not knowing stuff, with the secondary sources I'm able to find good reliable help in which I'm able to learn from. For my research process, how I could use this for the future would be, for example, with my research, I could do my own research on stuff I would basically need help on, like how research help my writing strengthen. I could use it for other stuff, like how I said I was taking history class on my next semester. I could use it to also strengthen my essays that I've heard we were gonna make. Other ways would be to ask better questions to people. For example, some ways you do research would be either try going outside, interviewing people, so you would gain confidence, be a bit less shy, and be able to be confident on when either you could use it for presenting by learning when you didn't. I just messed up. use it for like presenting what you gain by not being shy. Last, feedback. How can you use feedback in the future would be for specifically asking for help. For like right now, I need help with computer science classes, and I could use this feedback to ask help before exams. Before the exam takes place on places I need help on, and specifically ask for the answer I'm looking for in ways they would understand. And well, this concludes my video.